Hey guys, and welcome to the DBGA podcast, a podcast where we interview top level executives inside leading and growing companies in the beauty and e commerce industry. Excited to have our guest today, Timothy Lawrence. We'll be diving into his story and a little bit about what his company does and some engaging insights into the beauty industry. So I'll go ahead and kick it off to you, Timothy. Could you please introduce yourself and tell a quick snippet of your story and your background prior to working at
Absolutely. Pleased to be
Oralucent?
here, Rachel. So, Tim Lawrence, I'm the Chief Technology Officer at Oralucent and also co founder. Um, my background originally, I was trained as a physicist and quite a while ago. Don't want to date myself, but at that time when I graduated, there weren't a lot of opportunities in physics. So I decided to go into the computer field. And I worked in a variety of Fortune 500 companies, including IBM, Sony, Pricewaterhouse. Doing a lot of information technology consulting work, and pretty successful in the corporate world. But in 2008, I got involved with a pediatric medicine product, and it was sort of the early days of the internet, you could say. I grew the business substantially using search engine optimization. And eventually, after a couple of years, CVS got in touch with us, and we made our entry into CVS, and then a couple of years later into Walgreens, and then eventually expanded 10 countries worldwide. So it was at its when we sold the business in 2017, we had 20,000 stores selling this product, but it was primarily driven through search and online marketing. Uh, and as I mentioned, we sold the business 2017 so that I could focus on Oralucent, and that's really when we started kind of expanding the company. At that point, I'd already had two patents filed, but yeah, we grew it from there.
Okay, very interesting. Thank you for sharing this. So you kind of touched upon how
Mm.
you got into the beauty industry, but now I would like to know what is it about your job or industry that you're passionate about?
Well, yeah, that's there's a lot of things. Um, so, as a scientist, I was very compelled by the research on phototherapy, and particularly blue and red light. A lot of studies done in the context of not just teeth whitening, because a lot of people know about teeth whitening, but it's quite widely used in skincare and also now, most recently, people are discovering the antimicrobial properties of visible blue light, and so that part of it intrigued me as a scientist. But then I also saw that there's a tremendous opportunity to help a lot of people because obviously toothbrush is something everybody uses, has an enormously wide application, and so I felt strongly that this was something that I knew how to help bring into the world and to expand as a business opportunity as well. So yes, and I've always been passionate about startups and developing growing a business. That's something I developed a lot of passion around in the last decade or so.
Okay, yeah, like you mentioned, there's a lot more tech products
Mm,
in
mhm,
skincare and beauty in general nowadays. So I want to ask you as well, based on your being inside the industry, what are the current trends in the market that you are aware of?
mhm.
What winds are blowing? What are you
Yeah, there's
noticing?
several things actually. The obvious one, you may have heard of this thing called artificial intelligence. Well, that's the obvious one. But there are a lot of other things too. So, for example, IoT is something we see a lot of Internet of Things. The use of sensors in different consumer devices, and when you marry those two things up, you marry up the AI and the sensors, you get some very interesting applications. So, for example, with the toothbrush, we're seeing a lot of the big brands are using those two things do compliance monitoring, so you can track, where in the mouth people are using the toothbrush, and are they getting all the quadrants of all the teeth, and are they brushing for the 2 minutes and in the right places. So that type of thing. We actually have some patents around that in the light therapy space, oral light therapy. So that's one area. Another area is in the genome, genomics field. So Craig Venter invented or developed the DNA sequencing machine, I should say, several decades ago. But that technology has flourished, and we've discovered a lot about the human microbiome because of that. And so now we're learning all these different oral pathogens and things. There are tests now you can get for less than $100 to find out what pathogens you have in your mouth and how many. And we're actually using those tests in combination with our product to measure, gradual improvement. And then, of course, LEDs. Again, another fairly recent technology development, and of course, we use LEDs in our toothbrush for whitening and for the antimicrobial. So a lot of different things all playing together. It's fascinating.
Yeah, very interesting. Very interesting. Now, I want to transition a little bit and learn a
Mm.
bit more about your company. So, could you tell me about your company and what products are over at Oralucent?
Yeah, so we started with our 1.0 toothbrush about a year and a half ago. We launched that product, and basically using a specific wavelengths of light, both for whitening, but also the same type of light has been shown in several studies to suppress pathogenic bacteria. So combining those things with the red light, and we also have a O2 gel that we sell with the toothbrush. So the combination of the two provides antimicrobial and whitening efficacy to the consumer. But also, it's a toothbrush. It cleans, like another great toothbrush. It's a great toothbrush, but it also has this additional modality that's sort of behind the scenes, as it were. It's something that consumers have never had access to before, but it's a very important problem that we're solving because, unfortunately, 50% of adults have gum disease issues, and that figure rises as you get into your seniors, and so we're helping a lot of people with that.
Okay, awesome. You kind of touched upon this, but I really want to give you the chance to dive into this topic. And could you tell me what unique value do Oralucent products bring to your customers?
Yeah, so we we realized early on that we needed to optimize the technology because um, just putting a light in a toothbrush is not enough. You have to use the right wavelength, you have to have the right intensity of light, and you have to have certain features that maximize the experience, improve the experience. So we have some proprietary technology, our eye comfort technology. So the light comes on when you put it in your mouth, and when you take it out of your mouth, the light shuts off. So consumers find that very helpful because they can have a more intense light in the mouth, but you don't want to be looking at it. You don't want to be staring at the light. So that's one of the things that we have. We have some also some special designs that we're working on that are really going to make this feel exactly the way the current toothbrush works. And so we have some pretty unique technology that we've been working on for that.
Okay, very interesting. Thank you for sharing this. And I'm sure, like you said, there's so many components to take into account to make sure that the technology works. So I'm sure it was challenging, but in general, what are some of the challenges of being the CTO at Oralucent? What do the day-to-day challenges look like for you?
Well, we have a lot of the same challenges you might expect from a small but growing startup. So we're resource constrained, like most small businesses. So as a result, you end up wearing a lot of hats. So I get involved not just in the technology development, but also some of the marketing and operational aspects and business development. So I get to wear a lot of hats, and some of them are really exciting and innovative, and some of them are pretty mundane, like helping people with website issues and dealing with supply chain stuff. So
Hmm.
regulatory things like that. So yeah, that's just part and parcel of what we do here.
Okay, yeah, I can definitely relate to the wearing so many hats and
Mhm.
some hats that you don't really want to wear sometimes. But yeah, based on that, I want to ask you, what type of mindset do you think is needed to be successful founder and CTO?
Yeah, I think there's a few ingredients. The most obvious one is you've got to be doggedly determined to succeed. You have to be very, very motivated. And I think that motivation stems from having a vision of what your end state is, and really being passionate and driven about what your end state is. And you constantly have to have that in mind when because you always run into issues when you start up a business. You always have all kinds of obstacles, and a lot of people just give up, or they don't. It's too hard. If you're not passionate, if you're not driven by having that end state in mind, that can be a challenge. You have to be a problem solver. So that sometimes that means rolling up your sleeves and getting stuck into resolving issues, but also it means being an innovator, being a creative problem solver, and maybe thinking a little bit outside the box. Um, because at the end of the day, it's innovation that's going to get you to the top. It's doing something different from the rest of the pack. And if you can't define what that is, you need to spend you need to think about that. So I think that's an important piece. And then of course you have to be a good team builder. You have to find out what motivates people, and it's different. You know, everybody's different. So what motivates one person doesn't motivate another person. So you have to be a bit of a psychologist as well.
Again, wearing a lot of hats. Now I want to transition a little bit because, as you know, we're a data analytics company. So I'm always curious to hear about other people's experiences when it comes to data analytics in the industry. So
Mm.
I want to ask you, in your experience, how does data influence decision making and strategies in the beauty industry?
Well, I think it's critical. The beauty industry tends to be dominated by brand names, and um, and if a lot of not ours, but a lot of beauty products are essentially commodities. Whether it's cosmetics or sunglasses, they're kind of the same. The only thing that differentiates them is the brand, and they have very high margins a lot of the time. So in that space, I think data is critical because you have to, what are all the data elements that underlie a brand? It's things like consumer engagement, retention rates, referrals, lifetime customer value, all of those things that you associate with the customer relationship. I think are very important. And then you have all the traditional marketing metrics, CPM and click through rates and customer acquisition costs, those types of things. But I think that for the beauty industry, the strength of the brand is just as important, maybe, but well, actually, I would say more important than the marketing metrics.
Okay, okay, very interesting.
Mm.
And um, for Oralucent specifically, could you share insights on the role of data analytics in understanding consumer preferences and trends
Mm. Mm.
within your company?
Yeah, so we certainly employ all of the the typical marketing metrics that you would expect, and we're present in all of the digital channels that most of the other companies go through, Google and Facebook and Instagram and so forth. For us, we like to keep a close handle on our customers' experience, customer journey, and so we pay close attention to customer reviews and customer feedback. Also, um, referral rates and return rates and things of that nature are things that we monitor closely. Um, and then, of course, your typical marketing metrics, especially these days with social media, is so important to really understand what works and what attracts customers to your product, as well as what gives them the best experience, the best journey, the best interaction with your brand. And that a lot of the times that can be uh, through email. We also have a excellent customer service department, and we pride ourselves on our touch points that we have with the customers.
Okay, yeah, very interesting. It's for a lot of companies, I think getting data from very different sources helps. It can be challenging, but it helps as well because you have different formats. And like you said, people writing reviews or giving directly feedback through email um, can definitely be insightful. Now I want to ask about your projects. What are Oralucent's projects? What is your vision for the next 12 months?
Well, we have a number of things going on. Obviously, we're working on some new product development, but in parallel with that, we just launched our 2.0 product. So that's the biggest thing right now is really expanding and growing through that product, because it's increased our capacity tremendously, and we've essentially not been able to grow as quickly as we'd like because of the limited capacity we had with 1.0. So we're expanding into a number of channels, including retail and international, as well as digital channels and through dental affiliates and dental offices. So yeah, all of those things are on our
Okay.
radar.
Okay, exciting. That's that's great, great projects. Now I have a last question. It's a loaded one, but I like to ask it to kind of wrap things up. What are some of the most important things you've learned in your career?
Well, I think for me, and not everybody would necessarily take this approach, but approaching it as a scientist, I always found that the scientific method worked really well in business. And you have an idea of something that you think is going to work, but then you have to create an experiment. You create a test, and you collect data about that idea, and based on that information you collect, then you change the experiment, you improve it, you improve your processes, you improve your product, and you try it again, and you just keep collecting information. And so you can never really assume you know everything. You never know everything. You've always got to be in this learning mindset, always being in uh, this cycle of constantly improving and innovating. And to me, I attribute that to the scientific process. So I think that's probably the most important thing for me.
Yeah, definitely agree with that. Me working with data, it's my job, so I can only agree with that that way of doing things. Well, thank you so much for sharing this, and thank you for coming on the podcast. Now, for the people that are listening or watching and that want to reach out to you, Where can they find you?
Uh, Please come to our website, oralucent.com, ORALUCENT, and they can find all of the information on our website. Yeah, just reach out.
Okay, awesome. I'll put the link to the website in the description of the podcast. And thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And we hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Take care.
Thank you, Rachel.